This week on Freshly Cultured, Miss Mandi hangs out with radio and TV personality Kalekye Mumo.
Hi, Kalekye.
Hey, hi Mandy, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to cook for you today. I brought you some aprons.
Oh, thank you.
And I got you some fresh fry.
Always handy.
Let's
Karibu. Let's do this thing.
I'm excited to be here.
Karibu. Thank you. Kalekye Mumo is considered as fun, bubbly, but she's also, serious, got a quiet side, and kind and loving.
Kalekye Mumo is a Kenyan media personality and healthy lifestyle ambassador, best known for her almost 10-year stint on Kiss 100. She began her radio career working behind the scenes as a sound engineer, although she has had a love of radio since she was 10.
When I began at Capital, I felt I love the music, but I'm just feeling like, I'm not sure if this is my home. When I moved to Kiss, they didn't even have a position for an anchor, and I'd come from being a breakfast anchor. And I get in, and they tell me, we've heard your voice, we saw you left, but we have a news slot. And I'm like, a new what now? A new why now? News came with sports, came with managing the newsroom and editing stories and still being the reader. And then I had to learn sports, which I cared nothing for. So that I'm able to read and not say Series A when it's Series A. I learned the hard way. Anyway, I think now that push to say, yes, you've gotten in, your foot is into the biggest radio station in the country at the time. How do you make sure that they see your value to be on a radio show? Keep pushing your program controller. And so every day I tell him, I need to do a show, right? And that battle went on for a couple of months. And soon enough, he was like, okay, fine. Then you can do a weekend show, but you're going to do it with Shafi and Roy Karuhize. And I'm like, Lord, the two most unserious people on the planet. These are the ones that I'm going to have to work with to prove that I deserve a main show. Or how am I going to do that? I want a primetime show. And we worked. If anyone remembers Saturdays, it was where, Shafi started calling me Big Mama because he just used to get me so angry. I'd be now talking to them as if I was their mom. 8 months later, there was an avalanche of, as happens in media houses, people were poached and shows were now available. So let's just say in that period, we did that show for 8 years. I feel like for what it's worth, I learned how to be a wife at that time. Kwanza saa your skills, niko ready.
Kalekye is a healthy lifestyle ambassador who had to drastically change her diet when her weight began to affect her health prior to her 40th birthday.
Mandy, it's so nice to have you here. Thank you so much for this amazing apron. And you found me just starting to make this amazing fresh salad, me and my veggies. So since I'd already started, maybe you can pass me over some of those things, and then I will allow you to get back into cutting our cherry tomatoes.
So walk me through this. You're saying salads is one of your favorite things. Would you say this was one of the things that you had to adapt more into your diet, especially with your weight loss journey?
I think even beyond weight loss journey, one of the things that people don't know is that I have an IBS situation, which is irritable bowel syndrome. So that came up 12 years ago now? 12 years going to 13. And the biggest challenge is that when you are readily available to eat anything and everything, all of a sudden, all dark green vegetables, your skumas, your managus, can't have them anymore, they're giving you acidity. No wheat because it's giving you bloating, it's giving you a feeling of a hangover. I like to call it that because it's a headache as your system tries to digest. So all those things kind of made salads be my go-to thing because at least everything in a salad is good for my stomach and good for my gut.
Yes.
So that's the quickest and easiest solution that I had. As a child, when I was much younger, I did not like eating. I never used to eat. I mean, it always used to be a fight with my mom, and I was actually a smaller girl through nursery school to about standard 3. It was quite slippery, slidey. But then from when I got to standard 4, and now I've gone to a school where, the food was nice, and that everybody was like, you either eat or, the nuns were like, you don't eat, you don't come to class. And so I just started to adjust. And in adjusting, I ate a lot, knowing that my genetic disposition is that you will carry some weight around certain areas of your body. The weight was not the biggest thing on my plate. The biggest thing was my skin condition. I have a skin condition known as psoriasis. Yeah, me and Kim Kardashian, we share that problem together. Hi, Kimmy. And so the doctors didn't quite understand or know what it was. So I was constantly seeing doctors, from that age of 3. So do you really think I had time to think about weight? Wait for what? So by the time I'm 13, I don't notice about, I don't know, you're big, I don't know weight. Who cares? Fast forward to leaving primary school. I mean, I think I was only ever dissed really heavily about my skin once. So I'm like, you guys can say what you want. But me, after 13, no skin problems. Then 13 came, and nothing happened. And so the long and short of that period then just became managing my life without medication, because at 13 I said, that's it. Going into high school, then I was shipped to a boarding school. The weight just left. Kula githeri kila siku utaona wewe. Ukambani schools are not your cousin, they're not your friend. The food was, it was hard knock. So the weight fell off. The weight fell off through high school. And it wasn't until after I finished 4th form that I lost my grandmother. And when I lost my grandmother, that kind of messed me up. And so we were very close. And when I finished 4th form, since I was the only kid home and she was unwell, she was hypertensive, she had diabetes, I was her main caregiver. I was even moved into the guest room and I'd stay with her. And then when she got sick and went to hospital and died, that was it for me. And so I found comfort in food. And so I used to just eat to be okay. I had a best friend that time. I used to just call her. I'm not leaving my room. I tell her, pitia kenshik, kuja na kuku mzima, lakini ukuja na kota yako, hiyo mzima ni yangu. And that's it. And I just used to sit and eat. So now, having been a teenager who's lost the weight, and now all of a sudden, and nobody really quite noticed that I was going through this depression after she passed. So no one had quite noticed that this was happening, and I think I felt really hard to talk to my mom about it because she had lost her mom. So I couldn't say anything, and so I found comfort in food. And that's when my bad relationship with food actually really began. And one of the things I love fashion. I love fashion, I love dressing up. Make sure that you're capturing of your body. And so once I started doing that, I looked good. And once I look good in my head, I don't know about you guys, but catch me if you can. And that's the attitude I went with. But as I learned later, by the time I got onto the weight loss journey, and which happened because finally I had to talk to a doctor. My feet had been swelling for months, and I mean months. Now, I don't like doctors because I kind of lived seeing doctors for all of my childhood. Eventually I say, okay, fine. Now let me just actually go and see an osteo, that guy, therapist guy, you know who I mean, osteo. I went. The guy's looking at me and he's saying, Annie, your feet have been swollen for the last 3 months and you've done nothing. What if you have a blood clot? I said, who now? He said, yes, we are going now, test like that. You know how you go thinking, I'll just see the doctor for 1 hour and then go back to my business? The whole day. Had to do these tests, and thank God there was no clot. And a few weeks later, my late cousin, Janet Kanini, has the same problem. Her feet swell, and then she has a blood clot. And then now she's hospitalized. And then now I freak out. Because the doctors come from telling me, with your weight, you shouldn't be just ignoring such things. I said, now I need a definitive solution. My cousin's in hospital. She's not plus size. And she's had this thing that I ignored, that 3 months I have been saved from a blood clot. Who am I that I may ignore my body, you know? Even God can just strike you now with a bolt of lightning. I was like, no. And that's how I decided to find a solution. Now, the people I found had actually spoken to me a year before, and I told them, hell no, lose weight, and then my fans will say, what? Me, I'm the ambassador for plus size, please. They like me the way I am. I give them confidence. And that was my justification. Like, I always had these silly excuses as to why I shouldn't or why I should. And now I'm there saying, bring the thing. And it was not about anybody. It was not about what people think, how they seem. It was about health, and that I had been spared all this that my cousin was going through. That's why I did it. And that's how I got onto the journey.
What's one thing you don't put in your salads?
I won't put anything on that list of things I can't eat, and it can't be highly acidic. So that means even with whatever I'm garnishing with and whatever I'm adding to it, I need to be very careful on how much acidity can I put in this thing. So I need to create a very alkaline system.
So we can't even go too crazy with the lemon that we're gonna address.
We can't.
What have you drawn yourself towards more of, the positive comments or the negative comments? What's been driving you a lot more?
I mean, I think positivity will always be my thing. I've even had guys wondering how I had it all and I was plus size, as if you're not supposed to have
it
things.
all. Yeah.
You're not supposed to have good things because there's this thing about you that the world has said is not cool in I don't know whose eyes.
Yeah.
And that has been the biggest challenge. So for me, I think it's just positive. And I think a lot of the things that people said that were negative were people who felt that sasa umetuacha, you know, you told us that it's cool to be big size and then now you've left us. And I'm like, I told you to be happy with who you are. It doesn't matter. There are people who are smaller and have issues. I don't know if that's ever been an issue for you. There are people who feel, oh, I should have bigger boobs. Oh, I should have bigger hips. Oh, I should have. So there's always going to be someone who feels that they're not okay. So why are you making it a thing?
Yes.
You work on you. And if my health was compromised, and that's the reason I gave that I would do it, I'll do it. And also, do I need to give you a reason also? I'm just asking for a friend. I don't know. Come on, you get buyer. Come on, you choma.
Your career completely changed after you left radio for so many years.
Yeah.
Then you started doing all these other things.
Yeah.
The IG lives, the YouTube. What did you have to adapt a new diet towards this, because you were already a scheduled person, right?
Yeah. I did the weight loss during the breakfast show, and that's a hard time to do this thing, because in your head you think if I have to wake up early I better eat a big meal.
Yes.
So I used to think that I need to eat my dinner in the morning. So now all of a sudden, halfway through this career of morning, I'm being told that's the wrong thing to do. In fact, you're not supposed to put anything in your mouth until after X amount of hours since you woke up. I'm like, you just killed me dead. Let's just say how I did it is because I was determined that I needed to restore my health. It was hard. It was really, really hard. There were moments of hunger, dizziness, and all that at the first week. Then after that, you get used to it. Now, going back into eating normal food and being told, no, you need to eat because now you've lost, you need to also get your carbs back in. I was first of all afraid, totally afraid of eating, because I was like, if I eat anything that I wasn't eating during weight loss, I'll explode. Then I get off working, and then now all of a sudden I'm supposed to maintain this healthy lifestyle. Hey, the temptations, the places you go, the more events you do, the different setups that you're put in, it's unstructured, and that means it takes even more. So right now, what I have adapted myself to is intermittent fasting. And so I focus on, in the morning, I won't take anything before 11 a.m. And I will take a smoothie. And then the next time I'll have maybe a snack, whether it's a handful of nuts or an apple, and then I eat at between 5 and 7 p.m. and that's it.
Okay. I'm glad that you've invited me at this peak.
Yes.
This peak eating time. I want to assess the salad.
Oh, really? You think I'm not doing well?
I
in my own home. Well, anyway, here we go. I think we're good.
All we're gonna do is drizzle some fresh fried garlic oil onto that to bring it
Perfect.
some flavor.
Yes.
And now we should start on our meatballs.
Oh, great. Okay, let's do that.
Okay, now we have assembled our meatballs.
Yes.
We might as well just begin. So I have like the pan screaming hot.
Yeah, which it should be, so we get this right.
I know you don't like your food oily now.
Yeah, that's one of the things, like when I buy my fresh fries, it will last for a long time and we're happy because you don't need a lot.
You don't.
I think food doesn't necessarily taste good because of the oil.
Yeah.
It's what you do with it and then add that flavor of that oil after that. So I'm happy that you know what I like. Mike Rabar had been a friend to my cousin from high school when they went from 5 and 6 in Nairobi school. And so he kept calling, and this is landline, He's looked back, he's found the Turkish embassy number after he's called the landline to say, please come. I want to open an office at the mall. I need someone to manage the place. And that's what I did. I left the embassy to go and start managing homeboys, DJs in a very small space at the mall. And my mother thought I was mad. I tried applying to Capital. Back then you'd send a fax on the facsimile. Google is your friend. Facsimile, send a CV to Capital. Nothing, silence, And I moved from Homeboys to Rough Cuts Productions, which was a production house in Karen. They said, we may not be able to pay you way more than you're receiving, but what we'll do is that we will train you. Now that sounded like gold to me. They said, come, we'll train you. And I went to Karen. Best move I ever made. It was in faith that I would learn, and I did. I was lucky to learn under Lee Smith and Caroline Bindio Smith at the time. And they taught me how to use my voice over and above how to be a sound engineer. And that's what I did for another 4 years until Capital FM had their first Radio Idol competition. And this was for the Jam, when Marcus and Leo had just begun. At this point, I had given up. And so my best friend was the one who actually pushed me and said, you know what, you need to just send your CV. I'm like, you are such ends now. And I sent my CV as a sound person, not applying for a radio job. So it had 10 pages of all the jobs that I had ever touched in those 4 years. That's long for a 20-something-year-old. And apparently that's the reason they called me. They were like, Atiwa, how old? And you have a 10-page CV. Who the hell are you? Come, we must see you. And that's how my journey began.
So I want to really delve into your career. You're a woman who can be called a Jill of all trades. You've done sound engineering, you've read news, you've produced, you've had a music career at some point.
Yes, I did.
Yeah,
I did.
You've become a YouTuber, you're podcasting.
Yes.
What have you loved more ever since you left the whole
mainstream media?
I
think the thing I'm loving the most right now is doing my IG live show, Game Radio. I think because I hadn't realized how much I had missed talking to my audience on such a live situation where there's feedback, it's instant, I can see them. It's been such a refreshing place. But I'll also say that learning the show on TV was also awesome. When I was doing Talk Central, that was also awesome because it had something unique about it that I hadn't done. For me, I believe in progression. So what looks like you're a jack of all trades is more about what is it that I have always wanted to do and why can't I do it? Let's do it. Try it. If it works for you, you can experience it and leave it, or love it and embrace it. So I think people get stuck to doing one thing and not realize that you were not made to do one thing. I don't believe we were created to do one thing, Mandi, who would have thought that you were created to cook? The first time you started talking about that when you were on radio, everyone was like,
yeah.
The way that chick looks bullshit, can't she really get down and dirty and cook? But you see, that is an assumption that you can't do it just because you're viewed in one perspective.
Yeah.
We're not all supposed to be in one bowl. So for me, I'm like, try it, love it, embrace it. Sometimes it's scary because then people start to say, I mean, you don't have stickability, you don't stick to one thing. And I'm like, I stuck to radio for 10 years. I can't stick. Leave me.
To put together any good
hosting show, you must script. And by scripting, I mean you must have a plan of how do you want this show to end? Where do you want people to be when you end? It's always you start at the end, work yourself back to the beginning. To do that kind of show, you need to compartmentalize. You need to be cognizant of time markers, because our business as radio people is not only to entertain, our business is to sell. So I must keep you entertained long enough to do the sale. The sale is more important than the entertainment, because that's how we make our money. The most important scripts, of course, to follow are the ones for clients. So yes, we do script. However, it's not going to go the way you wrote it. In fact, sometimes you'll be getting off a link and you'll be looking at each other like, guy, how did we get there? So I think what people fail to understand about being a host on radio is that if you are not a good actor, you can't do it. How many characters can you pull off? Because when you get to the radio station, they actually give you a character Bible.
So all we're doing right now on these meatballs is giving them a lot of nice color before they simmer into that sauce right over there.
Yes, the sauce that we had made earlier. Nice curry sauce. This is exciting because I think a lot of people don't know how to work their meatballs, and they tend to think that the meat has to be burnt to cook inside. So
no.
How do you get guys to believe that it doesn't have to?
So I've been showing them that. Like you can see there's a bounce to the meatball. That means it hasn't cooked on the inside. It's just getting there.
Yeah.
Now our sauce is bubbling.
Yes.
Looking absolutely delicious. It's a curry masala sauce.
Yeah.
I'm gonna suggest you go add in some of those meatballs in there.
All right.
So that they can just absorb the flavor as well.
So this will also cook it a little bit more inside, right?
Yes, yes.
Awesome.
What are some of your digital media career highlights? Because we all know you've had great career highlights on mainstream media, someone trying to date you on air, like you've had all of that. So what are your digital media career highlights?
I think the bigger ones are the interviews that I got to do. I mean, I interviewed EVE.
When she was EVE. Well, she still is EVE.
She still is, but you see, for me, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
She's from an era where I grew up. That was my music. So you're telling me I don't care how old or whatever, I don't care. And then the game. Oh. When the game landed and you know, we managed to even get him to call on air and talk to me. The first thing I was like, you haven't even left the airport. Please, how important am I? Oh, please, the game has spoken to me. So there are moments like those kind of interviews, those kind of conversations that you have with people. And then even just meeting people who tell you that you changed my life. Actually, one person I met, I went to do a talk called This Is My Story. And when I finished, first of all, this is someone who I knew from primary school. He was in St. Mary's, I was in Sangari, but I'd never, you know, thought anything different than I know you, we're boys, when we meet, we talk. So all of a sudden, this thing ends and then he comes and tells me, thank you, you saved my life. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? He's like, you just know, if it wasn't you, I'd not be alive today.
What is it that you have done?
I don't know, and he didn't tell me. And I don't know when I said it, and it was not to him directly, it was on the show. Those moments for me are the reason I am alive, that I can change something in another person's life. I always say I could have 1,000,001 followers. That means nothing to me unless I can change one life. If I could just change one life a day, even that one follower for me.
And I love that you're keeping up with this mission, because now you're into personal life coaching.
Correct.
And we're going to be getting into that as we devour some of our delicious meatballs.
Looking good.
So let's go ahead and like serve this onto the table.
Yeah.
Now we're ready to serve.
Yes, looks really
I think this is my most favorite part, because I would love to hear what you think about the flavors and everything. So we have some turmeric rice, some sauteed spinach, the meatballs that we made, the sauce on the side, and our salad as well. So we can go ahead and start serving. As you keep telling me about being a personal life coach, when you were 10 years old, did you think you'd be a life coach?
Well, if you would have asked my mom, she'd probably say yes, because I used to talk a lot anyway, and I used to, you know, want to know everybody's business, and I used to want to ask how you feeling, what's going on, and I think more of that came up when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, they even had a nickname for me. I do
Which
not
was
know what
what?
you're going to bribe me to tell you. Because anyway.
Another meal?
Yeah, well, that would work. I endorse that, please. Otherwise, yes,
Cheers.
I endorse. That one I endorse.
So before the meal comes, you still can't tell it?
No. Anyway, they used to call me auntie because I was the person you could talk to like your auntie, and you don't feel like it's overly, judgy or that somebody's gonna be in your face over it. So that became who I was, the person to listen to. And so it's no mistake that then on radio that's the kind of person I would be, the person that people trust, the people feel that they can tell you what's going on in your life. So when I actually looked at what I was doing, I asked myself, if you're freely giving this information every day, your DM is full of, oh, I don't know what to do about this, I don't know how I feel about this, why don't you help me with this? Then I asked myself, then I actually do this thing properly. You can, but there are people who want you to have certification and get it done in a certain way. And I said, okay, fine, let me do that. But it comes naturally to me to speak and find out what's going on with you. But the art is listening. And most of the time, you actually have the answer yourself. You just don't want to remove it. So how do I help you find your answer? By asking you the right questions.
What's the one advice you would give to any woman who looks up to you, especially somebody who's much younger, maybe in her 20s, just getting out of like uni and is just about to embark on like womanhood?
I think the one thing I'd say would be that first of all, you're not your skin, if I could use that. You're not. And you're not going to be viewed as what your physicality has to deliver. If anything, I think I broke the boundaries of being that person who didn't quite look like the celebrity everyone wanted, but didn't care about it. So you don't have to think that you have to look a certain way to be whoever you want to be. And finding your purpose doesn't have to happen in your 20s. Relax. You will find yourself with time. Allow yourself to go through the different phases. Allow yourself to experience, but the biggest thing is please take the lessons.
Well, if there's one thing that I've loved that you've continuously preached about today, and we have to toast to it, is the fact that you've got to stay being teachable.
Oh yeah, stay teachable, people. That's a very important thing.
Yep.
And don't think that, I'm about to turn 45 and I'm still learning.
True.
I'm still learning.
Like you actually don't have all the answers.
No, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's also okay. And there's going to be a new phase, and embrace it.
To embracing new phases.
Yeah. Cheers to that.
Cheers.